In this video, I want to go over a few of the things that I've learned going from 9 failed businesses to $4.6 million in sales as an entrepreneur that I think you could do too. I think it would help you. So let's dive in. So from the ages of 18 to 27, I started 9 different businesses and lost tens of thousands of dollars doing it. So it started out with internet marketing and affiliate marketing, trying to figure that out. Amway and prepaid legal and Primerica, those are all those MLM companies. Then I had a landscaping business. Eventually I tried to do like tax lien investing and land acquisition. Started a clothing line called Live With Swag and sold t-shirts in a gay bar, which was crazy. I'm a married man to a female. And then a coaching and consulting business. And I think one of the goofiest ones was trying to start a Kindle ebook publishing business. So after all of these failures, really it left me feeling highly depressed, drowning myself in substances, and really my self-confidence at an all-time low. I remember driving. I was living in California at the time, and I remember sitting in my long commute in Southern California traffic, which sucked. And I just remember just feeling numb. At that point, I was feeling really discouraged. The thoughts that were going in my head were, am I really meant to be an entrepreneur? Can I really do this? I had tried so many different times. After 9 failed businesses over a 9-year span, I felt like just really throwing in the towel. I felt like maybe this wasn't a part of my destiny. Maybe I wasn't meant to be an entrepreneur. Maybe it just wasn't in the cards for me. I started thinking like, why was I seeing people that I thought weren't that smart? Quite honestly, how were they succeeding? How were they making money? How were they making running successful businesses look so easy? And so I started to think things like, man, they're stronger than me. They're more mentally tough than me, or, they're smarter than me. And that's part of why it really started to impact my self-confidence. Like so many times of saying that you're gonna do something and then not following through, or saying that this time is gonna be different and it not working. It was really a tough pill to swallow. I mean, after the first or second attempt, it was like I could kind of pick myself up again, but after the 8th or 9th time and someone being like,
hey, whatever happened to that business that you were starting?
It would be kind of embarrassing. Come up with some excuse. I got this new thing that I'm working on. But in 2015, something happened that changed it all forever. In December of 2015, my wife and I signed a franchise agreement to open up a franchise. It was something that I had thought about years before, but never thought I could afford it. And quite honestly, didn't really see myself being a franchise owner. I didn't really even know what that meant. And so in November of 2017, we opened up our first franchise location. And in that second month of being open, we did over $30,000 in sales. And I looked and saw that we were profitable. We had made money. In 2018, we then went and bought a second location. I remember that moment looking in December 2017 at my profit and loss statement, seeing that we did $30,000 in sales, that we had made money in our business. And I remember feeling so emotional after so many years of trying and starting business after business and failing. And my wife calling me out when I said, hey, let's take money out of our home and get a home equity line of credit and start this juice bar franchise. She looked at me like I was crazy. Like, are you kidding me? Like, she literally said, like, you've started business after business after business and haven't followed through. I don't want us to take money out of our house. What happens when you don't want to do this thing anymore? And so fast forward to today, and I've made over $4.6 million as an entrepreneur over the last 6 years or so, and I'm completely full-time now. And I've been out of the corporate world fully for about 3 years now. Yes, entrepreneurship has afforded me some things that I've always wanted. And so this year I just bought one of my dream cars, a 550 horsepower Range Rover SVR. Our 4-year-old has over $100,000 in his college savings plan. Our 2-year-old has over $40,000 in her college savings plan. And so if it wasn't for becoming an entrepreneur, I don't know that these things were possible. So the first lesson that I've learned now on the other side of being an entrepreneur is to know how you're wired. Here's what would happen. When I tried to start all of those different businesses, the same kind of pattern kept emerging, is that I'd be really quick and excited to dive into a new opportunity, and I'd go hard. I mean, I would spend the money, I would make the investments, I would take a bunch of action, but then I would just start getting confused and overwhelmed and like, what exactly do I do next? And trying to get everything to like look perfect. And what I finally learned was that we all are wired a certain way. And so there are certain personality assessments that you can take that will help you understand, like, how are you wired as a human being? Like, God has gifted you with a specific DNA, specific skill sets, strengths and weaknesses that are unique to you and you only. So if you've ever heard of something called DISC, the DISC profile, D-I-S-C. And so one of the things that I learned about myself is that I am a high D, but I'm also a high C. And so a DISC profile, the D stands for someone who's decisive or dominant. So think of like your classic type A person that just likes to go hard, move quick, make decisions. Maybe they seem a little bit bossy or some of those things. The I is like your classic outgoing person, right? And it stands for like inspirational, influential, outgoing. And S is for steady. So those are the type of people, they don't really like change. They're your stable people. They're very supportive. They really want to care for you. That's really their personality styles. And then the C is really someone who's like cautious and careful, calculated, like very analytical and very logical. What I later realized was that because I was a high D and a high C, it was like one foot on the gas and like one foot on the brakes at the same time in my businesses. And this is why I would get so confused and overwhelmed and get stuck and then just give up and jump to the next thing. And so part of what I've learned over those years is to just understand what my personality style is and how to use my strengths and weaknesses and not sit there and judge myself or criticize myself because of the overthinking or analysis paralysis, right? So for you, it's really about like, what's your personality style? Once you realize that like, this is how you're wired, what you're able to do is figure out how to double down on your strengths and just slightly improve your weaknesses. And so this leads to lesson number 2, which is one of my mantras to today, which is progress over perfection. So when I was 18 years old, I had a landscaping business, and quite honestly, I really didn't know what I was doing. I was really just getting started. And I had used progress over perfection. I just started getting clients, and people would ask me, hey, can you build a retaining wall? And I'd say, yeah, I could do that. And I had no idea how to do it. But I did start to experience a little bit of success with that business only at 18 years old. But here's what happened. Is that ultimately that high C in me, the desire for things to be organized and perfect and being cautious, really started to put a brake on the business. I would start to spend more time on trying to keep invoicing records and making sure that things were neat and organized in the business instead of getting customers and mastering my craft and focusing on the things that actually move the needle in the business. And so that pattern of what showed up in that landscaping business at 18 years old, it just started to repeat itself over the years. It would repeat itself in the online marketing business, and it would repeat itself in trying to do some of those network marketing businesses. And I would feel really intimidated by trying to go talk to random people or call family and friends. And I think while most of us probably feel that way, part of that was because I was a high C. So I was very cautious and very careful. And, when you start overthinking things, it can really mess with your head. I also wasn't a crazy high I, which means that being super outgoing wasn't really a part of at least like what I wanted to do in business at that point. And I was a perfectionist. I wanted everything to be perfect. And then here's what I learned though. I learned that the most successful entrepreneurs that I know, they start messy. So the most successful people, they really just start messy and they get started. And they know that failing forward is actually the way that you succeed. Like the longer that you try to avoid the failure, the longer you're just avoiding your success, because any successful entrepreneur will tell you that they had a lot of failures before they were ever successful. And so the analogy that I use here is like if two people are going to start a race, and that more cautious person, you're looking at the race and let's say you see the obstacles, because there are obstacles, and you look and you're just scheming, trying to plan, and okay, I'm gonna jump over that, and then after I do that, this is how I'm gonna approach that obstacle. And you have someone else next to you where they just start running. They're like, screw it, I'll figure it out as I go along. And so they just start running and they're tripping and falling over the obstacles. And meanwhile, I'm still at the starting line thinking,
oh man, look at them messing up over there. They're making such a mess. That's so embarrassing. Look at them.
but meanwhile, who's winning the race? They're winning the race. And so that was one of the things that I learned, and actually just something that me and one of the folks on my team were just talking about today, which is failing quickly. And what successful people do is they get the failures out of the way. Most of the time, you're going to have to fail in order to succeed. So the longer you try to avoid it, you're literally just holding back and hindering your own success. And so a lot of the times I was playing it safe. I didn't want to take the risk because that high C in me was really nervous to do so. What if I failed? What would people think of me? It would be so embarrassing. What would I think of myself? The irony is doing nothing is the one way to guarantee that you'll fail. And so the third thing that I learned was to stop playing the victim. So I was 19 years old and I get recruited. I'm in this company called Prepaid Legal, which is now known as Legal Shield. And so it's a network marketing company that sells membership services for legal plans. I actually still have the membership to this day. I have it for my business, I have it personally. It's actually a really great product or service. It helped me get out of a bunch of tickets. So you know what? I will drop the link below. If you want to sign up for a prepaid legal membership, I'll drop the link below, and that way you can protect yourself. But I wound up getting recruited into this company, Primerica, and the guy was like, hey, we can sell the prepaid legal plans here, and we sell all these other financial products. And they went through this whole presentation about this is how much money you can make. And, you know, of course he painted like a really rosy picture, and I was like, oh wow, I can make all that money. And the irony is, over that next year, I made a whopping $5,000. I had left at the time. I was working part-time at the bank, and I was making $10.22 an hour. I remember it down to the penny because I had left my job at Ace Hardware where I was making $8.50 an hour. So to go from $8.50 an hour to $10.22 an hour felt like so much money, and I got to wear a shirt and tie to work. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. Now keep in mind that in 2006, this was back in 2006, $10.22 an hour was a lot of money. If you think about that with inflation nowadays, it's probably like $15 or $17 an hour. But so I get in this company, and it was hard. I was a 19-year-old kid, and the main part of this business was like selling financial plans and financial services and investment products. So what was really great was that I actually got my first investment licenses there that helped me rise up the ranks in the corporate world. But I remember at one point feeling like, man, these guys duped me. Like, they told me I was gonna make all this money. They made it seem like it was so easy, and it was really hard. And turned out that most of the people weren't making any money. There was only a few people that were actually making a good amount of money. And so for years, I would get so upset because I would sign up for these things and I would see all of these, hey, you can make all this money and it's so easy, and I'd just keep signing up for this stuff, and then I'd start, and then I'd hit an obstacle, and then I'd get discouraged, and then I'd give up, and in my mind, I'd play the victim. And so what I learned was that the opportunity was equal for everyone. The opportunity to succeed was there for every single person. And when I just learned that I had to take 100% responsibility for my results and my lack of success, then that's really when things started to take off. The fourth thing that I learned is that it's not as easy as it looks, and that's okay. When I was living in California back in 2015, 2016, I had met a buddy of mine and he had a really successful business. He had told me that they were doing about $5 million a year in sales. And he just made it look so easy. Everything looked so effortless and natural. And what I did wind up learning was that when him and his wife started the business, they started passing out flyers. Like they would literally go door to door and hand out hundreds, if not thousands of flyers in a day to try and get customers. And then when they did get customers, they were the ones answering the phone at any time of the day when people were calling. And then they were the ones actually doing the carpet cleaning. They had this rig set up in this van and they were wearing the t-shirts and they were actually getting their hands dirty and doing the work. So, what I thought looked easy now 4 years later in this $5 million a year business, like the way he started, it was not easy. It was messy. And it actually took a lot of hard work. And I think one of the challenges that we face is that we keep comparing people's before and after picture, but not realizing all of the work and the sacrifice and the effort that it took in between that before and after picture. So I would constantly beat myself up thinking, why is this so easy for other people and so hard for me? Not realizing that it's okay if it's hard. It's okay if it feels hard to you. It's okay if sometimes that you doubt yourself or you don't think you can do it or any of those other thoughts that you think. It's not supposed to look easy. The fifth thing I learned is that you need a recipe for success. In December of 2015, my wife and I signed our franchise agreement and wired $25,000 to the franchisor to open this franchise. And this was my Hail Mary at entrepreneurship. At that point, I was at rock bottom mentally. I mean, my self-esteem was just trash. My confidence was low. I just didn't know if I could just ever be an entrepreneur. We talked about that already. The crazy part was the structure, the accountability, the blueprint, the recipe in the franchise system wound up being everything that I needed in order to have my first win at entrepreneurship. And that first year we did over $470,000 in sales and we made like a $60,000 profit that first year. And although that may not sound like a lot, it was huge. The confidence that created for me that, wow, we can do this. I can run and operate a successful business because at that point, we started out, when we signed our lease, the place was a dirt lot. The shopping center wasn't even built. So I had to go through the process of negotiating a commercial lease, managing the build out with our general contractor and overseeing that whole process, and then hiring a team of 15 people for when we opened and making sure that they got trained properly. And there were so many things that I just had no experience in doing whatsoever. But because I was in a franchise system, I was having weekly calls with the franchisor. They helped me pick out a general contractor. They sourced all of the equipment that I needed. I was just following the playbook. They had over 100 locations open. So they were basically just telling me what to execute and I was executing the play. And yes, there were still times where I got confused and overwhelmed, but guess what? Things kept moving forward because there was accountability and there was support. It made all of the difference in the world. And so what happened was that just gave me a lot of confidence. And that leads us to number 6, which is to get your first win under your belt. For so many years, I kept chasing what I thought was my passion, my dream work. I always wanted to have a YouTube channel. I always wanted to have an online business. I always wanted to help coach people. And that's what I was trying to do, but without the resume yet, without the background of being able to support that. And I thought, man, I really want to do what I'm passionate about. You hear that advice, chase your passions. And I actually disagree. I think that getting your first win under your belt as an entrepreneur is the most important thing that you can do. If you can just figure out a way to make money as an entrepreneur, to just do what you don't want to do, but you know that you're good at and that you can make money with. Just embrace the mundane, embrace the boredom, then use that momentum. ironically, like one of the businesses that was the most successful for me prior to all the failures was the landscaping business. It wasn't anything sexy. It wasn't an online business. And why? Because I was good at it and it was easy. I could easily secure a lawn mowing job and spend 45 minutes and get paid $30 to mow a lawn at that time. Like, I was working at a hardware store, so that's where I would actually get my customers. I would talk to people and then they'd be like, hey, can you come do some work for me? And so, lesson learned, I could have kept just following through on that business, but I just kept chasing like what I thought would make me the most amount of money in the shortest period of time, but that like looked the sexiest. So when you get your first win under your belt, doing something that's aligned with skill sets that you already have, that creates confidence, and then that creates momentum. And when you create that confidence and that momentum, that allows you and it fuels you into the next thing. And then gradually, with that experience under your belt, you can use that to be able to finally start doing the things that it is that you want to do. So let me know below in the comments, like which one of these things that you really relate to in your journey, because the reality is it shows up for all of us. It's really probably a couple of these things that may be holding you back from reaching the goals that you want to reach. And if you enjoyed this style of video, then right here you can check out this one that I did about being burned out as an entrepreneur. And recently I got really burned out, and I want to tell you what caused it and what I did about it. So I'll see you on the next one.